Welcome to Backyard Conversations. I started doing Backyard Conversations when I ran for office. It was kind of a part of my thing. We would go into a community and sit down in the backyard and we would talk about what's taking place in your backyard so that we can make a change together. In this day, in this time with all this going on, I felt it was important for me to start just tipping into the conversation space. And so I'm excited that my first backyard conversation is in my backyard with my mayor, Mayor Sharon Weston Broome. Mayor Broome has been the mayor of Baton Rouge since 2016. I have supported the mayor in 2016, in 2020, and will support the mayor again this year because of the things that you will discover in this conversation. I hope that the conversation that you hear today allows you to see Sharon Weston Broome, not Mayor Broome, because there is a difference in the people that we see on TV and the individuals who sit down and have conversations with us. I hope your backyard is better from the knowledge that you gain from this because you have the ability to apply the information that you get here to make your community stronger. Let's get to it. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon, Gary.
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Welcome to my first backyard conversation in podcast format.
I like backyard conversations.
So tell me, Mayor, you have been a leader in this community for a while, and you have been a senator, a state representative, a city council member, and the mayor of our city, the first Black woman to hold that position. What does that feel like for you? And what does it feel like being the mayor of what I want to say is my hometown, my backyard too?
Yeah. I am very, and I say this, I'm very humbled to be the mayor. Out of all the positions that I've been blessed to have, I would say being the mayor really is the culminating opportunity for me for public service. And I often said I never carved out a path for public service, got involved because I thought I could make a difference. And my public service journey, my elected office journey, really just evolved. And it ended up right here being mayor president. And as I've often said, I look forward to my last term because I believe this last term we're going to finish the job that I've started, and I believe it's going to be the best. I really do.
What makes Baton Rouge feel like your backyard?
Oh, Baton Rouge is home for me. It feels like my backyard because of the warmth of the sun that I feel so frequently, because of the people in my neighborhood who blow their horns and wave at me when they see me out, because of the little kids that even recognize me in their from their classroom studies and see me on the street and say that's the mayor, and the fact that my friends are here, and the friends that have really been with me on my journey for quite a long time. So when I think of home, I don't think of any other place than Baton Rouge.
When I remember when you were first running for mayor in 2015, we had a conversation, and I said, Mayor Broome, you're not even from here, and you told me, you said, I've been here longer than you've been alive.
That's true. That's true.
And I never really challenged you on that statement after that because it really kind of put things into perspective.
Well, I mean, we tend to be very, what is the word?
Territorial.
Yeah,
We are
we're
territorial.
here in Baton Rouge. I think we do welcome people with open arms. Our hospitality is great. In fact, that's why I made Baton Rouge my home 45 years ago. Because when I came here from another city, we won't mention, but when I came here, the people were so warm and friendly, and they spoke to you on the street, and they invited you to come over for some gumbo and all of that. And so I never thought about anywhere else. I was like, this is the place I want to be.
So, what's your favorite memory or tradition you've experienced in Baton Rouge that shows the heart of this community?
I would say we have so many traditions. Um, I would say that's a tough question because there's so many things that represent the heart of this community. I would say, Southern University football, LSU football. I would say tailgating
Hmm.
really shows the heart of this community,
Indeed.
whether you're at Southern University or whether you're at LSU. I think that events that happen annually, like I think about as mayor, the lighting of our Christmas tree is part of the fabric of our community, and there's so many things. We have such a strong um, culture. We have some great events and activities that really are part of who we are here.
If you could describe this backyard in 3 words, what would they be?
If I could describe this backyard in 3 words, for me, those 3 words would be love, heat, and people.
Love, heat, and people. Why those words?
Well, because I love my backyard. Um, I love, believe it or not, the warm climate here. Um, and I love the people here.
That's beautiful. Um, what do you think makes Baton Rouge special compared to other cities in the South?
I've had a chance to visit other southern cities.
You lead the,
National League of Cities. I
yeah.
just became the president of the National League of Cities, and we represent over 19,000 cities, towns, and villages. And not only during my membership with NLC, but in other ways, I've had a chance to visit other cities, southern cities. And I believe with all my heart that Baton Rouge, when you go to other places, you see how unique Baton Rouge is. I mean, Houston is a nice southern city. Um, Birmingham is a nice southern city. Atlanta is the Mecca, southern city. But New Orleans is a great southern city. But we have our own identity, and I don't think we realize that enough.
I don't think we embrace our own
Yeah,
genius enough, right?
yeah,
That we influence so many things, right? Like the ambassador to the United Nations is from our community. Don
absolutely.
Lemon is from our community.
Hmm.
Paul Judge, who is an entrepreneur, is from this community. There's a host of people who are doing amazing things around the world that are from here. And I share the sentiment that you share that as I go other places, there's just always something that brings me home.
Yeah,
You know, uh, that Garth Brooks song called in Baton
Baton
Rouge,
Rouge. Yeah.
understand the depth of what that feels like
Hmm.
because people from here, they just make you feel good.
Yes, yes.
Even when things aren't as uh, rosy as
Hmm.
life would,
Yeah,
you would like life to be, you still find people here who find a way to find some good in it.
yeah.
You know,
I'm gonna give you an example. My husband went out one day. He came back and he said, "Look what I got." He had all of these little small packs of Tony Sachery that he bought.
okay.
You know why? Because when we go to other cities, the
They-
food, we always feel like we missing something with the
I,
food. So he said, "I'm gonna put this in the suitcase, so we'll always have some when we go
I am
travel."
not mad at Brother Broome. I am not mad. I have had, you go some places and you look at the plate and it looks very good. And then you're like, I just never get excited.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never get excited. I'm grateful when it is good,
yes.
but I never get excited about the food. What is, so man, what's something Baton Rouge has accomplished recently that you're proud of?
Well, I'm actually proud of a number of accomplishments. I have to say, because I just finished a conversation with one of the folks in hierarchy at Amazon, at the National League of Cities. We had a conversation almost just like this where I interviewed her, and we told other cities and towns what it took to get an Amazon fulfillment center here. We showed them the Cortana Mall, a picture of Cortana Mall that was going under and would eventually become a blighted property. And then um, we showed them the before and the after, and we showed the ribbon cutting and the fulfillment center now. And I point to that, and I know people might say, "Oh, you talk about Amazon a lot," but I think that's a great example of how we transformed what could have been potentially a bad situation into not a positive situation for our city and our region. I mean, that Amazon fulfillment center with 1,400 jobs and growing and serving as a catalyst for that Florida corridor is really it's a big deal. And I know there are other communities that would love to have an Amazon fulfillment center or Amazon footprint in their backyard, if you would. I also think that we have, you know, Gary, when I first came into office, I was criticized because I talked about North Baton Rouge so much. People from who were not from North Baton Rouge, maybe some of the well-intentioned business people in our community were saying things like, all she talks about is North Baton Rouge. But I'm glad I did. I'm glad not only did I talk about it, but I'm glad we leaned in on projects in North Baton Rouge, because now those same people realize the importance of lifting up a community within your city and the impact that it has on the total city.
You know, I'm glad you said that because I grew up in North Baton Rouge, and I remember when Cortana was the spot, right? When you would go to Cortana to do your shopping, you would go to Cortana to do some eating, and then all of the car dealerships were on Florida Boulevard.
They were.
So you would go look at cars on Florida Boulevard, right? And when the mall left, or when the mall began to decline, so did the investment in that part of town, right? One of the challenges that I've had with our community, and this has been a real reckoning that I think we need to have, is that we don't recognize when we get a win, how to celebrate and appreciate that win so that we can get more people to come, right? When I travel to places like Atlanta, they are big and audacious about their city, right? They are proud to be from that city. And there are parts of Atlanta that look like parts of Plank Road, right? That's not what they show though, right? They are not going to put those aspects to the front because you want to attract people in. And so if Amazon is a win, as the mayor, you should be talking about Amazon. You should be attracting more people like that Aldi that's now a new grocery store in that area, north of Florida Boulevard, right? For me, I think that that's critical in a lot of ways, because if we don't acknowledge the wins, we can't attract more people, right? Good bait draw more fish.
Exactly. And you know, when I think about North Baton Rouge, you talked about growing up in North Baton Rouge. My parents purchased a home right in the heart of Dixie on Osceola Street. And
I've seen that house.
yeah, and so I remember the days that my dad, who at one point couldn't drive because he was getting too old to drive, he would walk down Plank Road to go to Hibernia Bank in Delmont Village. And then I know, as I have traveled throughout the community, that Plank Road, it has a lot of historical significance, but it's a main thoroughfare from North Baton Rouge to South Baton Rouge. And so the fact that now we are focusing on Plank Road as a corridor, working on our bus rapid transit that's going to be on Plank Road, redoing all of Plank Road.
Can you explain that Plank Road was not your road?
Yeah,
I think that's been one of the things that I've heard people talk about consistently is she just started working on Plank Road because it's election year, right? For me, understanding how this process works, can you explain that was a state highway?
Yeah, you know, in fact, as we look at the next term, one of the things I'm going to do now, I know you do some civic type
Yes,
classes for
ma'am.
people, and I'm going to do some city government 101
We
classes
need it.
because first of all, you're right. There are state highways, and then there are city roads and streets. Scenic Highway, State Highway, Plank Road was transferred to us, and that gave us the ability to work on that road. But even more than that, when we talk about, listen, and I get it when I hit potholes too, so I understand how people feel. But what folks don't realize is that there is a lengthy process in doing road work.
Hmm.
As what
Environmental studies.
environmental studies, utilities
Yep.
issues,
Can we pause right
yeah,
there? Okay. Utility issues mean that if your wiring and your phones are in certain places, they can't just bust the rock up on the ground.
yeah,
They have to know where all of that is to place those things in place before they do the road work.
yeah, exactly. And then sometimes we have to buy right away from folks. We have to buy property from
Because when
folks.
you're changing
Yeah,
what was to something new, you may not own that property
correct.
as a city.
Yeah, and so then we have to negotiate, and that's a legal process sometimes. People, we offer them a certain amount, they may say no
And
or hold out.
people gonna want that
They
money
want they
from that
yeah.
government.
So I mean, doing a road is a big deal. So I kind of you know, it was kind of funny to me when people thought that I just said it's election year, let's do Plank Road. No, this has been a long process, and it just happened to coincide with 2024 that we were ready to go and do that. Now you also know, but it's really interesting, Gary, too, because you know I shop, I do my own shopping, and that's a good place for me to get an informal survey from folks on how they feel
Indeed,
about
indeed,
things.
indeed.
And when I go into the grocery store, when I was going into I was still going to the grocery store, but for many months, people would say to me, "When you gonna do something about Plank Road?" And I kept telling them, "It's coming, it's coming, it's coming." And so, it finally did. Now the other street uh, that I would get feedback on, okay, when you gonna do something about Foster Drive?
And that's in the
And
works
now
right
that's
now
in the
too.
works now. I said
I
it's
have
coming.
I have gotten the calls about Foster Drive too,
Yeah.
man.
They're like, when you gonna do something about Foster Drive? Well, that is part of our road rehab program. So it's in the works. But North Baton Rouge deserves everything that any other part of town has. And that's why we spent money in terms of I was at Southern University recently, and they were talking about the whole grocery store issue. You and I have talked about that. And now we are strategically positioned um, to incentivize a grocery store in Scotlandville. Of course, we know it's taken much too long, but that's another process, porting grocery stores that are willing to come. We also have another potential grocery store coming on Jewel Road, which is in an area close to Greenwell Street, where we have affordable housing taking place. We've done affordable housing in North Baton Rouge, and we know the connection to affordable housing and the ability for people to thrive and have a good life. So we did over I want to say 2,000 units in the North Baton Rouge area. And just recently, we had a whole slate of projects that were up for council approval of affordable housing. Many people remember what I always call the nightmare on Elm Street,
Mm-hmm.
Elm Grove Apartments.
Torn
They
down.
were torn down, whole new apartments. And I was so glad recently when I don't minimize what they call enhancement projects like sidewalks. People love new sidewalks
You
and
need them
want new
too.
sidewalks, and
Yeah.
you need them. So we put a new sidewalk right on Elm Grove, and we managed the um, drainage system, covered it up at the same time. And one of the residents of that area said, this is making a big difference for me because I go out and walk every morning, but now I can walk on the sidewalk. And then it makes a difference for the students at the school right in front of there. So those are some of the investments we've made. We've made investments in North Baton Rouge in healthcare. whether it's supporting some of our federally qualified health centers, or whether it has involved entities like Ochsner and Oceans Health that located in what was an
Empty
empty
building.
building in Howell Place.
I held a town hall
I remember
in
that.
that building
I remember
in
that.
2016.
I remember that.
And there were no healthcare providers except for the black eye doctor
Ophthalmologist.
on the first floor.
She's my ophthalmologist too.
And for me, as a citizen, I want to say thank you, right? And I've said that to you prior to now, but publicly, because as an advocate, that's what we want to see. Now, people see the times when we disagree, but the work is the progress that we've seen in North Baton Rouge, the things that we've seen, like you talk about, Dr. Stacy Bland, who's now on Plank Road,
Correct.
right? We talk about Ochsner, like you said, that's in that facility. Those things 8 years ago were not there. And I think that that goes back to my point about, do we appreciate our backyard enough, or the things that are happening? And I think sometimes when you can't see things like combined in like a singular shot, it's hard to see the progress. But if you look at Krispy Kreme on Plank Road, Tony's frontage, the Delmont Village frontage, Dr. Bland's new facility, on top of what you've done in the investment on Plank Road, that is the beginning of revitalization, right? That's what the start of progress looks like.
Absolutely. And you said something that's key. It's a start.
It is. Start. And one of the reasons I want to highlight this, and you can't say this, but I can. North Baton Rouge was not a priority before you were the mayor. And so the decay that we see is decades of decay. That can't be fixed in 8 years, right? What I do want to know is, as you've seen these opportunities for progress, what does the 4 years ahead look like for you in taking those things that you've done in the North and packaging them forward?
Well, I will tell you that I want to see, we talked about the Plank Road corridor. I want to see a Scotlandville corridor that certainly is a reflection of many of the activities that are going on. The Scotland Avenue has a strong draw. It really does, for culture. You know, our brother who started the 11 Amp series, Byron. Yeah, he's been so dedicated and so committed for 8 years in that community. I want to see, and City Parish is going to work to, just like we have Live After 5 downtown, I want to see the same level of investment that we make, so people feel great about coming there. And that's going to be a priority for us. It's an easy lift. And I think I shared it with Byron, that whole park area. So we can have more concerts and opportunities there. We've invested with some young developers in that area, $6 million.
$6 million.
And I believe that they're going to continue to work to make their vision a reality as well.
I'm going to pause you there. I'm not going to go into the details, okay? But I will say that Councilwoman Banks advocated for that project in North Baton Rouge. And in her advocacy, before that property was ever purchased by those young men, her vision to see Scotland Avenue get some investment, right? And then these young men going through a bidding process with an entity I shall not name, but ending up getting that property, and then to have a mayor come in and put the resources. I think that one of the things that I hope this conversation helps people see is that the work is being done, right? That our advocacy is moving the needle, maybe not as fast as we want to see some of these things happen, but these bigger cities that we go to didn't get there overnight either.
No. And listen, I often say, and this is not to skirt around any responsibility as mayor president or work, but I will tell you, there are no cities without their challenges. You can't go to a city in America that doesn't have some level of challenge. And so we have to focus on those challenges and and tackle those challenges.
Do you think we hold the council, excuse me, do you think we hold the council as accountable as we hold you accountable?
Absolutely not. I do not think the council is held as accountable as I am. And for a certain, I get it a little bit, but it's really interesting because I have been to meetings and people who know the project, they say, you need to talk to your council person. And some people, don't know. They know the mayor,
The
but
reason
they
I
may
say
not
that
know.
is
Yeah.
because the project we're talking about that's funded in North Baton Rouge was
Mhm.
because there was a dogmatic council member
Absolutely.
who was saying, I want to see this project in
Right.
my district. And when the resources came,
Mhm.
there was a will and a
Yeah.
work to get
Yeah.
that done.
Yeah.
But if your council member is not advocating for things to take place in your
Mhm.
district
Mhm.
and going to all of these other partners along with your mayor, that
Right.
impacts the progress of
Oh,
that
absolutely,
community.
absolutely. And I have to say though that we have some very assertive
We do.
council members who are pursuing projects in collaboration with me to make their areas to improve their areas, and so we do have some who do that. And I will tell you that when we look at the future, and I think I said this a few minutes ago. We have recently put out a $3 million proposal to incentivize and attract grocery store to the Scotlandville area. That's one of the focuses um, in areas of disinvestment. And I believe that the Scotlandville area is a strong candidate to have a grocery store there.
Let's talk about crime for a second. Um, that is a hot button subject
Hmm.
in this city. And a lot of folks would like to police their way through crime. I have been a loud critic of our police department at times. I think where you and I have had most of our disagreement has often not been because of your actions, but the actions of an officer and then the path to accountability, right? I want to set that as the stage before I go into it, because I think that sometimes when people say we want a safer city, I never had my window bust out at the restaurant in Baton Rouge, but I did when I was in Atlanta, right? My friends that got jacked when we were on a trip didn't get robbed in Baton Rouge. We were in San Francisco. So when I think about certain types of crime,
Yeah.
I feel safe at home. Not to say that we don't have issues that need to be mitigated, but I think that when we paint a story of this city as some dangerous, violent place that is the most dangerous place in America, when my window got bust out, I was in the city that people go move to because poverty is everywhere.
Correct.
Right? And where you have people who have high rent and poverty is high in certain places, they do extreme things, right? A lot of the incidents that take place in crime in our community are human to human experiences, whether that's domestic violence. Louisiana has the second highest domestic violence in the country. Whether that is interpersonal relationships that cause conflict. But I think that when there's a narrative about crime, that crime is so bad in this city, how do you reset reality as well as do something to address the real issues of high homicides in our city?
So it's a challenge sometimes to reset because when you have the news consistently leading with a crime story almost at every newscast, it really sensationalizes the issue of crime in a community. And I say that because it's not a, I don't see it being balanced, right? I see a heavy focus on crime, 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 crime. Um, and so that can be a challenge trying to shift that perception. The perception is being um, formalized by what they see and hear. but we have to look at the data at the end of the day. And people are like, data, I know this
In
and that.
God we trust, everybody else bring data.
Data. That's right. That's right. That's my philosophy as well. And so um, the truth is that, and I want to talk about some of the issues that we face and how we should address crime. The truth is that for 2 years in a row, we saw a downward number. Our numbers went considerably down for 2022 and 2023. And we kept saying it. I kept saying it.
We had a month of February with no homicides.
Yeah. And so, but it was hard to reset and get people to connect with that.
I remember I told the chief at the time, don't tell nobody that there's been no homicides because they might go do something crazy,
Well, he used to, it's funny, our former chief, Paul Murphy, when we talk about the numbers going down and stuff, he would say things to me like, don't say anything about it too. He would say that too because he thought, maybe, but yeah, I mean, that did happen. Now, even with a new chief, we're using the same techniques. We did see an uptick at the beginning of this year, but the numbers in Baton Rouge are going down with homicides. Now, how do we address crime? Well, first of all, crime is a community issue. It's not just the mayor's issue. And I'm not
let's
advocating.
Keep in mind, the chief law enforcement officer of the parish is Sid Gotro.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Now, a lot of folk don't like to say that, but we can't find Sid when it comes time to some of this stuff that's going on. Now, you can't say that, but I can. Sheriff, we'd like to see you at a little more of these conversations if you want to keep getting elected, good brother. Continue, May. I'm sorry.
So, we have seen those numbers go down, but we still have work to do. I want to, and I will always work to make Baton Rouge a safer community. I will do everything possible. But let me tell you what we do know that works. We do know that we cannot police our way out of the issues surrounding crime. And I think I heard you say that earlier. We do know that we do need police officers. We need good, committed police officers who want to protect and serve. But we have you talked about some issues. We have an 18.5% poverty rate right here in Baton Rouge. We have to understand the systemic issues that are connected to crime. And often that is, employment or the unemployment or mental health issues or substance abuse issues or the inability to resolve conflict. And I was told that, and listen to this, when I get a report of a homicide, I read the report, but then I ask the chief, tell me, I want to get his take on what happened. So, for example, I remember one time, and this is in my mind, that he said it was a homicide. And he said 2 guys were in a convenience store. They started arguing in the convenience store. They took the argument outside. The argument got more heated. And then one guy pulled out a gun and shot the other guy. And oftentimes these arguments are with people who know each other.
Interpersonal conflict. Yeah.
And that's, and let me go back to the safe part of it, of our city. I say, there are always exceptions to what I'm about to say, always exceptions. But if you, Gary, and a few of your friends are part of my circle, then the likelihood of something happening to me dwindles. Because why? You're not going to be out here,
That's right,
doing anything aggressive towards me or, the other friends in our circle. But if your circle is with people who are, touting guns all the time and, it's always, and forgive me if I'm using this wrong, always a beef, then,
Come on with it, man.
then, and they talk about, we gonna shoot this one or this is gonna happen, then the likelihood increases.
It does.
The likelihood increases.
I think I struggle with people expecting the police to solve or stop every crime, right? We call the police after the crime is committed, right? Two dudes arguing in a store, get outside, end up one shot. That's interpersonal relationships where we got to have real conversations, which you've invested in Safe Hope for Healthy to create these type of environments for these conversations. But I want us to be honest that no mayor can stop that homicide unless we are doing the things to change the mentality of people on the front side, right? Because that ain't a poverty issue. That ain't a government resource issue. That is a lack of emotional intelligence issue. That is a lack of ability to have self-control issue. And as a Black man, I want to say to Black men in our city, we need to have more conversations with young Black men about self-control. Like I struggle with when the white community or when white citizens or certain citizens, I'm gonna say it that way, try to say that those of us who are advocating for these issues for a better North Baton Rouge or for more prosperity, like we're not challenging people to not kill each other, right? I'm a gun owner, right? But I ain't shot nobody. Don't intend to unless I have to defend myself, right? So I'm not against people having the right to bear arms, but I am saying that, like, we do address these issues. We are having these conversations. You have invested money in Safe Hope for Healthy. And so I don't want us to just have this crime conversation and not act like there's not a piece of personal responsibility that has to happen with us within each individual in our community to talk to our knuckleheads that we in our networks. We all know somebody that's in proximity to either anger, either drug activity, or questionable activity, right? We should have conversations with those people more often.
I agree. And that's why I like the fact that Baton Rouge has, through our Safe, Hopeful, Healthy initiative, we have these ecosystem meetings that happen, I want to say, once a month. And these meetings bring out people from the community who are trying to make sure that their neighborhoods are safe and implement programs.
You think those conversations have been impactful in those 2 years of crime? Because that money did not come in some ways until 2020, right?
Right. The money came after the pandemic.
Right.
And we were able to put it to good work through our Safe, Hopeful, Healthy initiative. And
now, Mayor, some people see that as a waste of money.
No.
Right. And explain how those community meetings and things are a benefit to us.
So through our Safe, Hopeful, Healthy initiative, we provide resources, we provide programming, we provide people on the streets as well to help neighborhoods.
And you did summer jobs and increased the amount of allotments for summer jobs, right?
Yeah. And so every year we've increased our allotment of summer youth employment. We call it the Mayor's Youth Workforce Experience, where we have 500 students. And as we talk about the future, my goal is to always increase that. We need more businesses to partner with us because we provide the money for the Mayor's Youth Workforce Experience. And our young people have an opportunity to have a job, to get personal development training at the same time. So all of this is part of our Safe, Hopeful, Healthy initiative. And during the summer, when we have these programs, once again, going back to the data, we've tracked it. In fact, somebody sent me some data, one of our researchers just the other day. We have been able to see during the period that we intensify our efforts in the summer in those zip codes, we have seen the data shows us that crime goes down. So, and that's important. It's not just, we've got to have programs for our young people, employment. We have to have resources for our parents as
Mhm.
well. And, all of this is important to mitigating crime in our community.
When you think about Baton Rouge 10 years from now, what's your dream for the city and its people?
My dream for Baton Rouge 10 years from now is that the D side of the community has risen to an A. My dream is that what has once been described as the dividing line of Florida, Florida Boulevard has been described as the dividing line, that people will have to figure out exactly where is the divide in Baton Rouge. Um, my dream 10 years from now is that we will have young professionals that I see right now who will be the leadership of Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish.
You know, Baton Rouge is one of the cities in America with the highest home ownership for Black people in America. Number 3 in the nation for Black home ownership. 53% of Black people in Baton Rouge own a home.
That's great.
Number 3 in the nation. We're also one of the cities in the country where Black people earn over $100,000 a year. And I think those things are important because I have this platform now and I want people to come to this place, because the only way we change this community for the better is if we welcome new people, we welcome new
Absolutely.
businesses, we welcome new ideas to the table,
Mhm.
so that we can see the fruit of all of our labor, right?
Yes, yes.
That's what makes a great city, that,
Mhm.
it's a melting pot of sorts.
Right. A
When
gumbo.
Indeed, a great one too. One of the things that you alluded to right there, the dividing line. A lot of times there's a us versus them attitude in our city that, if you're advocating for North Baton Rouge, that means that you're against the people in South Baton Rouge. I struggle with that because being from the North and seeing what it was when I was a kid
Mhm.
and what it has become through the lack of investment in the 90s and the early 2000s, that if there were not people screaming for this part of town, that we may not have gotten a mayor that prioritized us, right? That for me, you're the first mayor that actually took the time to make a priority. I remember when I interviewed Kip Holden in 2015, I asked him, what do you say to people who say you forgot North Baton Rouge? And his response to me was, well, if you can get a job in Baton Rouge, you ought to be good. You ought not have no problem. You ought to feel like we've done enough. And it is good to be able to get a job and to be employed, but it is also good to be able to go to a grocery store within a few miles of your home. It's also good to be able to have walkable neighborhoods so we can be
Absolutely.
healthier, right? It's also good to have access to fresh fruit and vegetables,
Yes.
right? So I think that you're the first leader that gave us a leader that listened to us say that. And what you've been criticized for in truth is being the mayor for everybody. Because Black folks have had issues with you saying that you hadn't done enough. The white folks had issues with you saying you hadn't done enough. And my issue with that is, especially when I hear people in South Baton Rouge complain, that for the last 50 plus years, the investment and the priority had been the southern portion of the parish. And so now that a leader has said, let's prioritize the North, I struggle with people wanting to spend $2 million and divide our city and then say that we are divisive, right? I just want that to be on the record in the conversation, because I feel like we have a lot of nuanced dialogue in Baton Rouge without truth.
Yeah.
And the real truth is you can't be more divisive than to spend millions of dollars and then take a vote that does not include all of us. And then after we've all put all this money into the pot for the last 50 years, to then say we want 50 million of that every year just for us after we all built that. Because we can't divide our money for PQ Lane out. We can't divide our money for Highland or Burbank out. We can't divide our money that we paid into those pots out, but now they get to take $50 million away. How did you prepare for all that came? I know we did the legal stuff and all of that,
Mhm.
but how did you prepare as a mayor?
Well, I will tell you, years ago, when we knew that um, the potential of a breakaway city might be a reality, I started telling my department heads, listen, I want you to prepare budgets that reveal a 10% cut and a 20% cut. Just have it there. We're not going to implement anything right now, but I just want you to have it prepared. I also simultaneously put more money in our reserves so we could utilize those dollars if we needed them. We also implemented a strong budget stabilization fund.
What does that mean?
That means that we had dollars that could help us cover any particular deficits that we might encounter. Let's just say if we had a issue. It could have been a weather crisis or things like this that we have to tap into those funds to help close some gaps. But what we have to do is just at the basics of it is save. you know, Make sure that while we have a strong budget, that we're also simultaneously saving money. You might call it saving for a rainy day.
So you would say that you have been a fiscally conservative leader.
I would say I've been fiscally responsible.
Fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
Got it.
Now
Okay.
I have some of my friends who say that yeah, the mayor is pretty frugal. I'm very generous, but I'm frugal. That's why Gary, when we did our new budget in 2025, I knew that we had to tighten our belt. Some of those uh, budget scenarios that I asked my department heads to do, we had to implement them.
Mhm.
We did not do across the board budget cuts. I asked each department as we moved forward with the advent of St. George, I asked them, give me a budget with some cuts that you feel are reasonable, that you can live within and still deliver effective services for our citizens. And each department head did that. And so one of my top priorities was that I did not want to lay off any of my 4,000 employees.
And are you gonna have to?
No,
Because of?
frugality. Frugality and making sure that, and because we had those funds, we had reserves that we could use. So, people, it's important that people know that they have some job stability.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is, November. The budget is going to be completed in November. The council is going to go through it. Can you imagine if I had to lay off people
Before the holidays.
before the holidays? But even beyond that, just laying off people, period, who have worked. Let me tell you, I don't care what people say. We have our city parish employees. The majority of them are some of the most dedicated, committed people in public service. And so that's why I take up for them when people talk about, they're not doing things on a regular basis, maintenance and blah, blah, blah. I know they're doing maintenance on a regular basis. They show me the maintenance schedule. We talk about these things. So I am glad and proud to say that we curated and designed a budget that kept all of our employees employed in city parish government. And I'm talking over 4,000 employees.
Now, I think that is one of the strongest things you said in this conversation, because for me, no matter what other people attempted to do, no matter what narratives have been said, because you have been a good steward with the people's resources, nobody's going to lose their job
No.
as the result of this city being split
Correct.
apart.
Correct.
Right? We don't want to be honest that there are people who are trying to split this city apart, have done so to their own accord. And so the only way that would have not harmed us is if you were prepared, and you were. And so I'm appreciative of that. As we get ready to wrap up, Mayor, I want to ask you some rapid fire questions, okay?
Okay.
All right. Name one place in Baton Rouge every visitor should go.
Every visitor should go to Tony's Seafood.
Good one. What's a hidden gem in Baton Rouge that more people need to know about?
One of the hidden gems in Baton Rouge, I would say, is the museum downtown.
Okay. If Baton Rouge had a theme song, what would it be?
Ain't no stopping us now.
Ain't no stopping us now. Um, and as we reflect on this conversation and your time as mayor, um, if you could leave one message with Baton Rouge citizens today, whether they live in the North or the South, what would that message be?
My message, no matter where you live in Baton Rouge, is that um, we have shared goals. We have goals that are common, whether you live in North Baton Rouge or South Baton Rouge. Goals around family, goals around life, uh, goals around happiness. And I believe that we need to focus on those goals that we share more than we do on the goals that we don't share. We need to focus on the goals that we do share. We need to focus on the goals that we share for this great city and parish and lean in together and continue to work to make Baton Rouge the city that I know and that you know it can be.
Mayor, I thank you for taking the time to have this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, what is the next big step for our backyard here in Baton Rouge, and how can we help you make it happen?
I would say that the next big step is to make sure that we carve a path out for our young people who want to stay in this community, who are looking for opportunities so that they can stay and create their future here. And I believe that if everyone certainly focused on that, our business community, our institutions of higher learning, our school system, if we keep that in mind, I believe that this narrative that people are leaving, our young professionals are leaving, will no longer be a part of the conversation.
Well, I hope to help you bring more jobs to this community over the next 4 years so we can do that.
Absolutely.
Mayor, I thank you for taking the time to have this conversation.
Thank you so much.
I'm with you, and I want you to win re-election because I think that you have displayed a steady hand in some unstable times. And in this environment where leadership is questionable in a whole lot of other places, I want the citizens of this parish to reelect you so that we can have stability in this community. You have been a stable hand in this community for a long time, and I want to say thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
And that's our backyard conversation.